UFC 301 returns to Brazil. In honor of that, our top 5 this week is top 5 Brazilian things. Alex, I think I have the first pick. Is that correct?
You do, sir. I had the first pick in last week's draft.
So let's stop the bullshit and let's just get down to it.
The nitty gritty?
Let's get down to the nitty gritty. My number 1 pick in top 5 Brazilian things, I mean, I got to go with it. We're a UFC podcast. It's going to be the MMA/UFC stars of Brazil. Some of the biggest stars, best fighters of all time have come from Brazil. Besides America, it's probably the country that has the second most UFC fighters all time and currently, I would assume.
Okay.
I mean, we got Alex Pereira, current double champ. We got Charles Oliveira, former champ. Amanda Nunes, woman GOAT. Anderson Silva, possible total UFC GOAT. Jose Aldo, countless other guys. I mean, when you think Brazil, if you're a UFC fan, like Brazil's one of the countries you think of as the UFC.
That is a good pick. General, how do you want to word that in a couple words?
MMA stars.
MMA stars?
Brazilian MMA stars.
Right, Brazilian, yeah, of course.
So that's my first pick. I think it's very fitting with UFC returning to Vegas. Our podcast is MMA related.
Yeah.
So Brazilian stars, MMA stars.
I like it.
My number 1 pick. What's your number 1 pick, Alex?
That's a very good pick. I'm going with something also related to our podcast.
I think I know what you're going with.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
I had that on my list.
While it originated in Japan, Carlos Gracie...
BJJ didn't... JJ.
JJ. But the
BJJ.
sport originated in Japan. Carlos Gracie learned and helped spread Gracie and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Did you ever hear
what it is
the
today.
origins, what they used to do when they were starting out? They would go in... The Gracies in Brazil would just go into the other martial arts gyms
and they would just compete.
And just beat the shit out of the
everybody,
the senseis.
Right.
That's how they got people to do.
Just walk in and clean house. Yeah,
it's like,
and they were like, this is why you need to learn this, because with such little movement, such little
y'all are way bigger than me, and I'm choking you out.
Exactly, I'm completely dominating,
killing you.
Right. So yeah, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's what most fighters in the UFC specialize in, is a not striking.
I don't know if they specialize in it.
They utilize it, I should say.
Yes, they all train in it, and
right.
you have to have a basic
jiu-jitsu.
Understanding of BJJ
right.
to be in the UFC pretty much. So that's not a bad pick. I like it.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, my number 1. Going straight into number 2, I gotta go with the Amazon rainforest.
Oh, that's a good pick. I had it on my list.
So the reason I'm going with the Amazon rainforest, specifically to Brazil, is about 60% of it is in Brazil. But most importantly, the Amazon rainforest absorbs 25% of the CO2 on Earth. They call it a carbon sink.
Oh, so you lib.
Well, it helps us be able to be the industrial type of civilization we are, because there's so much greenery in one spot. It does a bunch of work for us.
Okay, Joseph Biden.
It also harbors 40,000 plant species, 1,300 bird species, over 3,000 fish.
They still have uncontacted tribes.
Indigenous tribes with millions of people still.
I don't know about millions, but.
No, they estimate 2 million people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, which is
that
millions.
Is crazy.
That's plural. But yeah, the Amazon rainforest, that's kind of embodies a good chunk of Brazil and a few other countries. But Brazil, there you go.
It's not a bad pick. I like that pick. Everybody knows the Amazon rainforest.
Yeah, you definitely heard of it.
So popular, the biggest company in the world almost is named after it.
What's that company?
Amazon.
Oh, dang.
Yeah,
you're right. That is it.
So not a bad pick. So my second pick now.
Yes, sir.
This is going to be my guest pick from my beautiful girlfriend, Clara.
So when your guest pick gives you, all picks you already have, do you just get to kind of figure out your own guest pick?
No, I just take into account what she's given me. And
Damn,
I attribute
dude,
it to her.
I'm giving you opportunities to dig a hole, and you're just not taking it. All right.
But she came out with a great pick. This is something that...
Oh, she came out with a great pick.
This is something that, when you think of Brazil, you think of this monument, this landmark. It stands over the entire city of Rio. This is Christ the Redeemer statue.
That is a good option, and it is on my list.
It encompasses Brazil, It encompasses not only like you think of Rio when you think of it. Brazil's a very Christian Catholic country, and this symbolizes that.
Right.
It's one of the coolest, regardless of what you think of it. It's one of the coolest monuments on top of a mountain, a giant Christ
It's definitely one of the most famous landmarks
of all time.
of all time.
And interesting thing, it was only built in like the 50s or the 60s.
Yeah, the design, I have that written down. The design was started in 1922.
Yeah.
And like construction went into it was designed by like a French Polish dude. Mm-hmm. And then like the Brazilian engineers teamed up with a bunch of people to put it together. Pretty cool stuff. That is a very good pick. I appreciate, it's in a bunch of movies like Fast and Furious. So like those things being iconic landmarks, you see it and you're like, oh, they're in Brazil.
Exactly.
You're like it.
You know exactly
immediately-
what it is, where they're
Right.
at.
It immediately puts you in the location. It's kind of like seeing the Statue of Liberty. You know you're in New York.
Exactly.
It's the same kind of thing.
So shout out Clara for that pick.
Shout out Claire. Good job, Claire.
My next pick, the third pick, Brazilian soccer, Brazilian football, just the whole thing. They have some of the biggest stars of all time, Neymar, Pele. They're the most successful team in the World Cup. I think 5 World Cup victories. Their iconic yellow shirts. They are the pinnacle of international soccer is Brazil. Everybody wants to be Brazil. Everybody's inspired by Brazil. They have the flair. They're exciting to watch. I mean, Brazilian soccer. That's one of the things you think of, in my opinion, when you think of Brazil.
Yeah, dude, I literally have pretty much everything you just wrote down. Or you not wrote down. I have it written down what you just said. 5-time FIFA World Cup winner. I did also, I don't know if this is true. You can correct me because I know you're a big football fan. They're the only team to have ever appeared in every World Cup.
That is correct.
Is that still standing?
I believe so.
That's pretty cool. They hosted the 2014 FIFA World Cup.
They did.
They got slaughtered by
In
Germany. I
the
found
semifinal.
8-1.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal.
They have a bunch of memes of the fans crying in the stadium.
Oh, they're a great.
Because like a once in a lifetime thing to host the World Cup.
even for Brazil.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
damn.
then-
I figured for Brazil, like the notoriety.
I think the one before that they hosted was like in the 50s.
Oh, so like a once in like a person's lifetime,
Yes,
like to
yes.
experience that event. I got what you're saying. Yeah, that's very, very cool.
But yeah, Brazilian soccer, it's probably the thing. Their two sports are like soccer than MMA.
Yeah,
So Brazilian soccer, my third pick.
that's a great pick. I can't complain with that at all. I'm gonna go with for my third pick, the Brazilian Carnival.
Oh, I
It's
had that on my pick.
literally so we're from Louisiana. It's literally Mardi Gras for us.
It is.
It's one of the most popular ones is held in Rio. It's held the Friday before Ash Wednesday, and it kicks off the Lent season.
It goes back to what
That's
I said. They're a Christian Catholic country. Like,
Right.
That's one of their things.
Yeah, and it like literally Mardi Gras translated is Fat Tuesday. We just do it the day before Ash Wednesday. They do it the Friday before. They have big festival, parades, carnivals throughout the city. Brazilian Carnival is like a heritage cultural thing that being from Louisiana and knowing, what we're about with it, I couldn't even imagine how awesome theirs is.
I'm
like
sure
in
it's-
person, it would be
sure it's amazing.
It would put our New Orleans, put it to shame completely. So Brazilian Carnival is what I'm going with.
Not a bad one. So that's your third pick. What's your fourth?
All right, fourth pick. This is where things get kind of different. I'm leaving my quote unquote silly pick to my fifth pick. I'm going to go with the Brazilian fans. The fans of Brazilian sports.
Okay.
You went with the stars, you generalized it that way. I'm going with the fans because they're emotional investments to their teams. It's like family to them, as it is with a bunch of other things. But we've seen Brazilian fight cards. You're talking about the World Cup being a once in a lifetime, people crying, being beaten by Germany. They bring energy and vibrancy to the stadium. They all rep it. It's the common thing of like the country comes together. They back their team through and through. There's not the people, rooting for Argentina sitting in Brazil. No, everybody has the yellow shirt. Everybody's rooting for Aldo. Everybody's rooting for Silva. It's the fan. It's the pride of your country.
They have a strong fan.
the
group.
love to your team, your fighter, your sport, etc. Their fan base of Brazil is powerful.
It's not a bad pick. I like that pick, and I agree. I think they have some of the best fans, and as you say, it kind of brings the country together.
Absolutely. So what do you have for your fourth and fifth pick?
So my fourth pick, this is going to be something I think you think of when you think of Brazil. Specifically, there's one you think of. It's the beaches of Brazil. You think of the Copacabana beach. It's the famous beach in Rio. They have white sand. You think of people playing volleyball.
Yep.
They're always packed. It's a beautiful beach. And I think it encompasses Brazil. One of the things you think of Brazil
Are you going
is
with beaches or that beach?
beaches in parentheses Copacabana Beach.
Okay.
I just think it's one of the biggest, definitely tourist attractions of Brazil, the beaches.
Absolutely. That's a good pick. Beaches are, shout out to my wife. She hates going to the beach,
I love the beach.
but I love the beach. It's a great, great time for me. Just hanging out, going in the water, chilling. It's a great time.
In my last pick, I'm going to go with the city of Rio de Janeiro.
It's on my list.
It hosted a World Cup final, 2 World Cup finals. It's hosted the Olympics. It's probably the biggest tourist attraction. Not the biggest city in Brazil, surprisingly. A lot of people, it's Sao Paulo. It's the biggest. Rio,
What's the
though,
capital of Brazil?
Sao Paulo.
There's
no,
two,
no.
right?
Brasilia is the
Right.
capital.
Okay. Yeah. But it was changed like since we've been alive or something. Pretty close.
Maybe, I don't know.
It holds Christ the Redeemer,
holds Christ the Redeemer, holds Copacabana Beach, holds
the most famous carnival.
holds the most famous carnival. I mean, when you think of Brazil and you think of like going to Brazil, yeah, Sao Paulo is the biggest city, but Rio like encompasses, I think, Brazilian culture.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Rio de Janeiro.
So that's my 5th pick. What's your 5th pick, Alex? Let's wrap this up.
All right, my 5th pick, I'm going to go with the Brazilian wax.
Brazilian wax.
Yeah, so specifically what that did for beaches from 1987 forward. So Seven Sisters from Brazil, this is how like the story goes that I found out on the internet. The Brazilian wax was popularized by Seven Sisters who opened a waxing salon in New York in 1987. They have popularized the Brazilian wax to look smooth on the beach. So I can only imagine how beaches were previous to 1987. Rocky in so many senses.
BW.
Yeah. So I got to go with the Brazilian wax. It's kind of silly, but I don't think I could be alive in that era where like trying to, get the sand out of everywhere always. But the Brazilian wax I'm going with for my 5th pick.
Interesting pick. Not a bad one. I'm not criticizing it. Just an interesting pick.
It definitely has its value in Brazilian society if they are the ones who in fact created it, which the internet
Sounds
says
like
so.
they are. So let's recap our top 5s, Alex. My top 5. Number 1, the MMA stars of Brazil. Number 2, Christ the Redeemer statue. Number 3, Brazilian soccer. Number 4, the beaches, specifically Copacabana Beach. And number 5, the city of Rio de Janeiro.
That's a great top 5. My number 1 is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. My number 2 is the Amazon rainforest. Number 3, the Brazilian carnival. Number 4, Brazilian fan base. And number 5, the Brazilian wax. I can't wait for you to see this graphic.